Welcome, everybody. Glaziar Gamble podcast here, and I believe this is episode 44, if I'm not mistaken. We are really good at counting, but we both failed math basically every year of our life. It's fine. Whether that's true or not, I'm not going to tell you.
My best subject, but the only thing I was good at in school, and like math and like being unattractive to women. Like that was the two things I was really good at.
Oh yeah, if there was a class in that,
warming the bench in high school sports also.
Oh yeah, yep.
I had an affinity for that.
Sure.
What about you? Any special talents that you had?
I could shoot liquid between my front two teeth at a pretty good distance.
Okay. Did that account to anything in life?
No. I used to be able to hold my breath for a minute and a half.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's accounted for something in your life.
Yeah, when I'm motivated, at least.
Don't need to use your throat at all to breathe.
But yeah, I believe this is 44. And we have a one basketball NBA topic we're going to talk about quick because we predicted something earlier before the playoffs started, and it's coming to fruition. And a lot of big media companies are talking about it. But if you watched this podcast, listened to this podcast at all, you would know this is what was going to happen.
About mid-season, I think, like around All-Star break is when we like brought up the whole Embiid and Giannis clip.
Yep. They were over 100 free throws in front of the third place person.
So, so we're not talking about fouls.
And then we're also going to talk about the Vikings draft, by the way.
Yeah. So yeah, we're talking about fouls there, and just the difference in fouls in the NBA over the course of this whole season, and how it is coming and impacting the playoffs greatly. If you look at NBA Twitter right now, they are freaking out because the Toronto Raptors and Philadelphia 76ers series is basically Toronto versus the refs at this point.
Oh yeah.
There was a clip of 7 minutes into the game or something like that. Toronto was called for 7 fouls. So about a foul a minute there, and that first of all that slows the game down like crazy.
Which is what we mentioned. It was going to be so boring, and each game was going to be 4 hours long. Yeah,
and Philly got their first foul, so Toronto finally got either, I don't know if it was loose ball or shooting free throws or whatever. At that point, James Harden had shot 12 free throws before Toronto shot any free throws.
That's so boring.
So,
and the announcers even mentioned, the announcers started talking about the free throw disparity, which is why a lot of people have been talking about it, because it's like, oh, the announcers mentioned it, so now the people that were just kind of partially paying attention were like, oh, wow, that is ridiculous.
Yeah,
that's
it was
weird.
Like 28 free throws to 7 at one point, which is
that's
insane.
So boring.
Yeah. So, we talked about halfway through the season, and it's coming to fruition now. And I just think that the stigma behind Philadelphia and Joel Embiid and Harden even, it's almost not fair because they're ready to make the foul call before any contact even happens. Like it's just going to be called a foul. So there's also a play where it was Anunoby, I think, was guarding Harden down the lane, and Harden drove left, like he's left-handed, drove left. Anunoby's in perfect position. The guy that's guarding Embiid is also like help defense, and Harden runs into Embiid. He runs into Embiid. Embiid and Harden both fall down, and Toronto got called for a foul. So, I don't know. That's my piece on it is I saw it coming. And it's been a problem all year. So bringing it up.
I'm just waiting till a physical game, because people are going to say there's a lot of fouls, so this is a physical series. But it's not a physical series. Like, I mean, you just heard there, it's two teammates running into each other, and the other team gets called for a foul. It's really not. Like, if you've been watching it, it's really not that tough or physical of a series. There are less competitive series that are more physical than this one. There just happen to be a lot of free throws because of the players that are in it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't like it. I don't mind free throws. I think free throws are a huge part of every player's game. I think that a lot of players throughout the past with high free throw percentage, it's been a really impressive, but high free throw numbers now, especially when you see the disparity, when there's so much littler on the other side, it's really not that impressive at all, and it's actually very boring, and it's bad basketball. It's boring basketball.
There was a just to put it into correlation to the Memphis and Timberwolves series, which I believe has been officiated really well so far.
It has been.
So there was a play where Papev Ja was trying to split a pick, and he ran into Karl Anthony Towns and he got hit. So he went up to try to shoot it after the pick, or after the because he got hit. He knew there was a foul call, and Papev just swipes down at the ball as hard as he could, and the ball ball hit Ja right in the face. And I was like, all right, I can see that if Papev would have just put his hand up and blocked the shot, but instead of the excessive action. He got a technical foul, so Ja went and shot a free throw and got the ball. And so not a minute later, there was so they actually reviewed that. They reviewed Ja splitting the screen, they called the excessive contact on Pat Bev, or excessive force, unneeded, whatever. Forget the terminology. But
unnecessary roughness.
Yeah.
Defense.
Yeah. So Pat Bev got called for the technical. It was okay, whatever. Not a minute later, there's a rebound, and all of a sudden Vando's just on the ground, holding his face, right? And so Ant goes to the ref and he's like, review it. And so the refs were like, you know what? Let's review it. And Steven Adams straight up could have gone for the ball, but he just slaps Vando across the face.
He's somebody that's been struggling this series is Steven Adams. Yeah, Steven Adams been having a hard series.
It's a hard guard for him. Cat or Vando, they're too athletic for him.
What are you trying to say?
They're fast. They're fast. They're nimble.
All right. He has to play scrappy.
Yeah.
He has to be the first one in, last one out.
He doesn't have that deceiving speed.
Yeah. Yeah. Steven Adams has to play. Yeah. You get it.
Yeah. So, and so the transparency between reviewing one side of the ball when something could have been excessive, and then reviewing the other side of the ball when something could have been excessive. Steven Adams ended up getting a flagrant one. So yeah, it was, it's been called great both ways so far. So.
Sure. Well, I'll take that. I would love to play, instead of listening to complaining players, listen to review it. That's listen to that sort of call, but let the other stuff go.
Yeah.
I don't think Philly, Joel Embiid made that game-winning shot. I don't think Philly's in that position without the disparity of calls.
Yes, I don't either.
I just don't. I think that once they get into they'll get into one series where the refs decide to not call things, and people are going to see that'll be the series they lose, and people are going to blame the refs,
right?
Saying they 100%. Let too many things go and all that, and it's gonna be no, this is how every series should be refereed. Okay. It's just they treat your superstars like they're babies.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's our NBA talk, and we saw this coming. We said it would happen. We said it before the playoffs started. We also said it around All-Star break. So if you listen to here, again, this is double-digit times. If you listen to us, you're ahead of the pack by a long shot. But yeah, let's do the Vikings draft talk. NFL drafts next week, so we wanted to get some NFL draft stuff in. I was thinking about doing a full mock draft, but I started a new job. I just don't have time. So let's just do the primary targets of the Vikings and, what it would take for them to get them. So I think that obviously the number one target is Sauce Ahmad Gardner.
Sure.
I think he's the top target, but people have been talking. Is it realistic for the Vikings to even get him?
Yeah. I want to say, so we'd obviously have to move up for Sauce. And another prospect that the Vikings had a formal interview with was Trayvon Walker.
Yep, I have him written down.
Top five pick himself. So getting into that top five is probably the question. And what would that take?
So that was one of the things. there are a few people that are potential top 5 candidates. I think, written down on here. I put down 1, 2, 3. There's 3 people I think
5.
They would have to trade up for.
Right.
And that would be potentially Lloyd, the linebacker, Trayvon Walker, the edge rusher, and Sauce Gardner.
Sure.
So it's those 3 I think they're trading up for. Anybody else, they most likely are going to have to either stay pat or trade down. Sauce is projected to go anywhere from pick 1 to pick 5. Nobody really sees him getting out of the top 5, which is crazy for a corner. But a lot of the teams don't want to. A lot of the teams apparently in the top 5 don't want to take him, not because he's not great, but because they would value the value that they could get for that. They view higher than what he drafting a corner in the top 5 gives you. So because they view that, I don't think people have to give up as much as if it were like a quarterback or an edge rusher or a linebacker even, or even like a wide receiver. I don't think they have to give up as much for Sauce as people are expecting. I do think it'll take, a first and a lot of mid-round picks, maybe some mid-round picks this year and next year, plus swapping first this year. So if Sauce is still there at pick 4, I think is when they're going to start getting antsy. I don't think they'll make a move up to 2 or 3 for Sauce. I don't think that's 9 picks into the top 5. That's a ton of
capital you have to give up to get a franchise quarterback impact kind of person.
But pick 4 or 5, that's 7 or 8 picks up or down. You might be able to say, okay, let's swap firsts, and then all 3 sixths plus maybe a third and then a second next year. I think something like that seems like a lot of total amount of picks, but it's really not a ton in terms of high value picks. The most valuable pick is your next year's first or next year's second. But you can, if that's a third, 3 sixths, and a second next year. So you're giving up 5 picks plus swapping a pick, which is a lot, but that's about what you would expect for a quarterback. You're thinking about 5 picks. It's just 2 or 3 firsts and a couple seconds. But this is a corner that the only reason people are trying to move down is because he's a corner. So I think that it's one of those things that if somebody does make a move into the top 5 for Sauce, people are going to say, why didn't my team move? Why didn't my team do that? If that's how cheap it was, I think Sauce is, it's going to be one of those sorts of things. And I think it's going to be huge for Sauce because he has the type of personality where he'd be like, they moved on from me and they're going to regret it. And it'll be some sort of motivation. So I think it's a win-win. If somebody does a huge move like that for Sauce, I think that's what it would take for the Vikings.
Sure. I've also seen some things on Sauce, just in regards to like what people are saying on just the NFL Twitterverse, is they almost want the teams before them to make the decision at corner by like selecting Sauce or Stingley so that they can just be like, okay, now it's not.
Now we move down.
Yeah. Now we can afford to either go get a different position or go back because that corner that we
I saw some people say that. I really don't think that's what they're gonna do because that's so passive. Somebody else do it for us. Okay, so if either of those hit, that's your fault. I think the number 1 target, like obviously Sauce is the big one, but I think if I'm the Vikings, I hope Derek Stingley falls to somewhere between 8 and then 12. I think at pick 8 is when the Vikings start calling. I think pick 10 is realistic. If he's there, they'll move a similar package up for what they would have moved for Sauce. They'll move for Stingley, even only to go up a couple spaces because he's exactly what they need. He's the size they need. He is the his dad was an NFL player. He has the credibility from SEC or not SEC, but college football, high level play. And I really think Derek Stingley he's my top choice. I would rather
I think he is too.
Move up for Stingley.
For me, there's some graphic I saw that the Vikings have only drafted like 3 people from LSU in the last like 40 years. And all 3 of them have been like exceptionally talented players.
Daniil
was the last one. So I don't know. It just kind of Stingley would be like the almost like the perfect pick, just because like
I think so.
You've got like even just like Patty P, right? Like you got the LSU,
which is his NFL comparison is Patrick Peterson.
Yeah, and you got like from LSU. Apparently we have a guy on our coaching staff that worked at LSU or something.
Yeah. Yep.
Too. So yeah.
He has connections to LSU,
Yeah. I'm just out of the say. It's like the perfect pick. So if you write that, you get into that eight-ish range.
I think they'll have to, because Washington, who picks at 11, will take him if he's there. Yeah. So they have to move above Washington.
The
football team.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They have a dumbass name with a dumbass owner with dumbass shit leaking from their ceiling. We have to move in front of the football team in order to get Stingley. So I think he won't be there at 12. He would have been had he not showed out his pro day, I think. But I think moving up to 8 is 100% realistic, and I would. Another player that is, so I'm just going down based on the ranking of likeliness from a culmination of Sports Illustrated, ESPN, NFL.com, all these, a culmination. It's a ranking based on them. The next highest likely player, so it was Derek Stingley, was number 1. The next highest likely was Karlaftis. He is an edge rusher from Purdue. I think that, based on what I've seen of him, I don't think he's a 12th overall pick. He is somebody that I could see. If the Vikings fell in love with him, they would take him at 12, but he is somebody that you could move down to. The one that we're going to mention here is Pittsburgh Steelers at 20.
20, yep.
That's the most common one that will most likely. Karlaftis at 20 would be huge. Somewhere between 12 and 20 is where a lot of these guys are going to be. Like, would the Vikings take him around there? I think Karlaftis is a great 12 to 20 pick. However, I am not impressed by his tape as much as a lot of other people are. So I don't think that one's as great of a pick. There are a few more that we'll go through here that I think are a lot better options. Ojabo is one of those from Michigan, opposite Aiden Hutchinson, which I think has helped his stock. But Ojabo is somebody I would much rather, if we're going to pick between those two, I'm taking Ojabo at 12. If you trade down to 20, you can do that whole let somebody else pick one, we'll take the other sort of thing.
Sure.
And while I said that that's a bad strategy, that's what the Chargers did with Justin Herbert. They had Tua and Herbert, and they decided, we'll let the Dolphins pick one, we'll take the other. The Dolphins took Tua, they took Herbert, and it worked out. So It's not like it's a terrible strategy. I just personally think it's a weak-minded one.
Right. I think I think Vikings fans are trying to they just assume we've dealt with passivity.
Yeah.
Correct. We've dealt with that
passivity. I don't know what.
Passivity. It sounds more intense. Passivity.
Pacifiers.
Yeah, we've dealt with that for a long time.
Sure.
We've never moved up and made a splash.
Every Minnesota sport, basically.
Yeah. So in regards to the first round, we've moved up in the second, we've moved up in the third, and for the most part, we've hit on most of those. Dalvin Cook, Brian O'Neill are some, but we've also failed. We got, I think, Pat Elflein we moved up for in the third.
Teddy Bridgewater moved up into the first.
Yeah. So first round is kind of scary. We've never really made a big splash. So I would love to see us be aggressive. And I've seen a lot of things about how coveted how Kwesi sees edge rushers. He's worked with Myles Garrett and then Joey Bosa, so he knows the impact of S-tier pass rusher can be.
Sure.
So I'm seeing a lot of in the meeting with Trayvon Walker too, even furthers that. But I could see them going edge too. And
I agree. So. And Karlaftis and Ojabo are both edge rushers that are right around that 12 to 20 range that people, if you're not too familiar with the draft, those are names that you might hear and I think are both huge for the team. I think Ojabo fits what our team needs more. Karlaftis, I think, would have been better if we stick in a 4-3.
Sure.
Ojabo seems to be able to. He could probably stand up a little bit better if we had to be a linebacker, but he also is able. He's strong enough to do the end.
Sure.
McDuffie is the name I've been hearing the past couple days. He's a corner, and I really don't think McDuffie's a first-round pick. I really don't. I think pick 20, you could move back again if your goal was McDuffie. Okay. I think it's one of those. If your goal is McDuffie, trade for like Kansas City's 2 first-round picks or whatever they have, and some others. Like you could, if your goal is McDuffie, you could drop all the way down to 31, and he'd still be a good pick.
Sure.
Personally, I don't think Linderbaum is on the target anymore. We just stopped hearing about him.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think he's going to be beyond 20 again, or somebody else going to take him.
He's too many kids. He's too close to Bradbury, and I don't mean that like maybe not talent wise, but like size wise, like it's just looking like a Bradbury clone almost. So
you mentioned edge. Jermaine Johnson is somebody that people are talking about. I think that's a 20, like right at 20. That would be if we traded down 12 to 15 or 16, I still think Jermaine Johnson's not
the team that has 16 and 18 Saints now, or Eagles, was that Saints, I think?
One of them, yeah. I don't think they take Jermaine even there at 16 or 18, whatever it would be. And then there's a string of wide receivers. There's Cedric Wilson. Who are the couple others that I mentioned here, or I wrote down here? Drake London, Jameson Williams, Chris Olave, Treylon Burks, and then Cedric Wilson. I think out of all of those, you got Olave and Cedric Wilson, the Ohio State guys. Jameson Williams, I think, was Alabama. So we got a few of these guys that I think they're going to target. Drake London, Chris Olave, Cedric Wilson. If those guys are available at 12, that's the only time I could see that pick. I don't think they're trading up for those guys.
Right.
And I think if they trade down, they have a defensive guy in mind.
Yeah.
So for anybody looking for a wide receiver, I think that was just some heated smoke screens we were hearing early on, just so that teams on draft day think it's a possibility.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's a safety net in case they don't think they'll be.
Yeah, because everyone wants a wide receiver. So saying that you're interested in a wide receiver, you're going to get teams calling, being like, hey, like they could take this wide receiver that we want. There's one that's up at 12, so they could take that. They could take a wide receiver. So, and they maybe sweeten their deal compared to other teams. So,
I think one thing that you have to, one thing to look at as well is the depth, the positions with depth. Like there's a lot of edge rusher depth. There's a lot of wide receiver depth. So, is that somebody? Do you want to target one of those positions at 12 or move for one of those? I don't think so. Which is why I think Davis, the defensive tackle, is heating up talks as well. And there's some linebacker talks like Dean and Lloyd, because those guys are now all their value with all of these talks about all these other positions, guys from all these other positions. I think that those, you're going to start hearing these talks heat up because people are starting to realize the top, there may be depth, but certain positions are really top heavy. So you got corner, and I think defensive tackle and inside linebacker are extremely top heavy. The Vikings might target somebody like that, and I think Davis is somebody that is on my roster for 12. Defensive tackle, he would be a D end or D tackle in our system. I really think that's somebody that Vikings fans definitely should be on the mark out for.
Speaking of Jordan Davis, he blew up like the combine. Like he was a story if I've ever seen a story.
Yeah.
He definitely helped his stock. And one thing I'm looking for the Vikings to just draft is a player that can, like, Daniil, for instance, has been asked to be a down on the ground defensive end. He's going to rush the passer every time. Sure. But now he's going to be asked to do different things. Like you've seen a couple videos of him having to fall back into that flat zone or maybe jam someone before he ends up jam a tight end before he ends up rushing or something like that. So a lot of guys that can do versatile things. because I think those defensive ends / edge rushers are going to be asked to do a bunch of those different things.
Yeah.
So, I'm looking for Vikings to get a couple of those guys.
Which I'll skip a couple down then, and we'll talk about somebody you mentioned that fits that role. Trayvon Walker. Potential number 1 overall pick.
Yeah, you're very high on him, yeah.
Yeah, I think Aiden Hutchinson's going to be the number 1 overall pick, but Trayvon Walker is the athlete, the combine freak, the guy that might not have been a top 5 pick until all of a sudden people start seeing those numbers and they get all goo-goo-eyed.
Giddy.
I think that the right defensive coordinator would be amazing here. I don't know if that's necessarily who the Vikings have, but I think Ed Donatel is one of those guys that might drool at the idea of Trayvon Walker. He falls surprisingly out of the top 5. Maybe a team jumps at, Stingley and Sauce and they're gone super early. Somebody gets an early wide receiver. Hamilton goes into the top 5 or something like he was originally supposed to. All of a sudden, Trayvon Walker falls out of the top 5. I think that's one of those guys that guys like Ed Donatel are like, okay, it's time. Let's do something. Yeah. So that's the only way I think they get Trayvon Walker. He's not somebody I do one of those huge packages for. He's an edge rusher / he would also be able to play linebacker for us. So that's you're going to trade multiple first round picks. I don't think that's worth it.
Yeah.
Just my opinion. I think Trayvon Walker is going to be fascinating to watch in the NFL, but if he goes to a team that is not defensive creatively or creative on defense, I do think he has major bust potential purely on the fact that he needs the right coach. I felt that same way about Isaiah Simmons when he came out of Clemson into the NFL. He's had a hard time getting his feet under him, not nearly what they thought his potential would be. He went to a team that I thought had a super boring defensive coordinator. I think a Trayvon Walker to the Panthers would be
at 6, I think, right?
Would be incredible, and I think that's his best chance to succeed.
Sure.
We got Kaiir Elam and McCreary are 2 corners. Both of those are trade down probably to the 20s.
Yeah, I've seen a couple people doing mock drafts, and they get Elam at 20 after a trade down. So
yep. I mentioned Dean and Lloyd, the linebackers. Those are both probably, as the draft gets closer, linebackers is going to be more likely stay pat. You'll have to take them at 12 because I think the value is going to go up as the draft comes through. I don't think they're going quarterback. So people
I mean, I think they'll probably get someone late. But maybe even an undrafted, but I think they'll bring another quarterback into camp.
Vikings actually have a high percentage chance listed in terms of Vegas to draft Kenny Pickett, Malik Willis, Sam Howell, Corral, Strong, and Ritter. Those are all people that are projected to potential Vikings picks. All of those would be that early second rounder.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a high enough need for that.
I don't either, especially with and I know that obviously there's a change in coach from Zimmer to O'Connell, but O'Connell did talk about Mond a little bit, and he was like he's doing everything right. He's actually impressed with him so far and what he's been be able to do in leadership wise and just like his knowledge. Yeah. So and the one thing that Kellen Mond can do over Kirk Cousins is he can move a little. So,
I don't think they're going to put 4 quarterbacks on the roster because you put Mond or the rookie quarterback on practice squad, they're gone.
Yeah.
So any of those guys, Howell, Strong, any of them, because this quarterback draft is all we don't know. Is this potential? Are any of these guys good? That means teams want them. I think a lot of them are going to go. There may be 0 quarterbacks in the first round. All of those guys are probably gone in the second.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, if they are there, they will be traded up for. I guarantee it.
Yeah, like the Derek Carr situation.
Absolutely. Almost. Teddy Bridgewater, Derek Carr. The teams with the multiple late firsts, like Kansas City, are going to be able to move for those quarterbacks because somebody's going to be like, I saw Sam Howell, I want it. Carson Strong's pro day was better than Malik Willis, need him.
Yeah,
I think those teams, the teams with late first round picks,
let me work with him.
Those teams with late first round picks are going to cash in with those quarterbacks. Vikings aren't going to do that. Vikings
don't need it
for that. And they don't need it, and they're not cutting Sean Mannion, so they're not holding 4 quarterbacks. I think completely not going to happen.
Yeah, the 3 we have right now, they might get an undrafted guy for the practice squad, but that's typical of any team.
Right.
The team usually has an undrafted quarterback on the practice squad or something.
So I do think realistically, Derek Stingley, perfect fit. Trayvon Walker, a couple other guys, pipe dreams, but I don't think Trayvon Walker's the right fit for us. So while I would love him on the team, talent-wise, I don't think he's the right fit.
Sure.
Derek Stingley, though, lock him in, put him in. Patrick Peterson, perfect trainer. He's the NFL comp. Dantzler moves to a more comfortable position. We have a lock-in number 1. Patrick Peterson can, if he shows a little bit, sign more of regression. Stingley can even step in. We have a better slot. I think.
Yeah, we went from 39th out of 42nd slot corner to 10th slot corner. So with Chandon Sullivan. So
now this last player before I think we can be finished up here, Kyle Hamilton. That is my number 2 who I want.
Okay.
There's a couple linebackers that, like I said, I think their value skyrockets. So maybe they take one of them and I'd be totally fine with it. I'm basically fine with any of these picks as long as they're at the right value. Like I said, some of them 15 to 20, some of them 20 and later.
Sure.
Kyle Hamilton, if he's there at 12, lock it in. Unless Derek Stingley is there. If Kyle Hamilton is there at 12, lock it in. If Derek Stingley's there at 8 to 10, you are willing to move on from, I would say, at least 6 picks to move up for him just because those 3 firsts, a third, and then next year's second plus swapping picks, do it. Just do it. Kyle Hamilton is the top. Absolutely. Give me him now. It's like he can. Not only will he fit because most likely a lot of people think Harrison Smith is gone next year, so we're going to need a replacement. But Kyle Hamilton, his agent just said, Kyle would be willing to play sub linebacker for any teams and knows he could do it successfully. Yeah. That is a position that a nickel defense or that dime defense or that hybrid defense that Ed Donatel wants to try with this defense.
Yeah, he's going to do a lot of weird things. Yeah. I've just talked about having the versatile guys. And so, I'm all for that as well.
So Kyle Hamilton is... I want it bad. I also love the idea of trading down. But I know a lot of fans don't want that.
What? We always do that.
Yeah. So it's just the value you could get, especially with the skyrocketing value of these linebackers. I think they'll be able to trade down or wide receivers.
Or quarterback. There's going to be some team. There's going to be some team that wants a quarterback at 12. I'm telling you, someone that would want someone that high.
The Saints could easily trade both of their firsts for 12 if they want.
I've seen Saints. Saints Saints are high on Willis. I've seen the Steelers are high on Pickett. So I've seen all of these things, but Kyle Hamilton would be fun as hell.
Oh yeah.
Because then we could have 3 safeties out there and not be lacking anywhere. So especially with how Bynum can play corner. The versatility, Harry can guard linebackers. He can guard tight ends. I'm sure Hamilton at 6'4" can guard tight ends. So
I think Hamilton's who they would put on tight ends there.
Yeah.
I think, like I said with Trayvon Walker, I think Ed Donatel looks at a Kyle Hamilton and goes, It's not what do I do with him, it's what don't I do with him.
Yeah.
I am going to put Kyle Hamilton in as many packages as possible.
Yeah.
We're not going to waste any time putting him on special teams right away. He's a starting defensive player.
Yeah.
D-back is our most necessary need at this moment.
And they have
done 3 of those positions.
One hell of a job with their even that one guy, Nate Hairston, is that the other guy?
Nate Hairston.
Yeah. So just the fact that what they've done with the corners, or just our defensive backs in general, I feel I feel confident in that group, but I would feel a lot more confident if we got a DB like Hamilton or Stingley to add to that mix.
Our free agent signings, we've mentioned this, the Vikings can go best player available. And the Vikings management have done a perfect job at making best player available an option, whether they stay, trade up, trade down. They can take best player available, and it's not a bad pick.
Yeah.
I still like Linderbaum. I just don't think he is.
Yeah, I mean, O-line are fun, but the last time we hit on a first round O-line has been Darisaw.
JC Treader says he's willing to sign for $6 million.
Yeah.
Go get JC Treader for $6 million.
Yeah, you can put injury incentives in the deal at some point.
Well, and you could also sign him for a 2-year deal, push it all to next year so that you can make the cap work. Yeah. Sign JC Treader.
We actually have, we've got room too. We've got
but most of that's going to be for the draft. A lot of that gets taken up by the rookie contracts.
So
Stingley, Hamilton.
Sure, I'm with you on that.
If it's not one of those two, sorry, Vikings fans. If it's not one of those two, trade down. I really just the value that you could get for trading down at 12 for one of these quarterbacks, one of these linebackers, or Jordan Davis won't be there. But if one of these interior defensive linemen is there, their value is going to skyrocket because people are seeing how top heavy their positions are. So if it's not Stingley and it's not Kyle Hamilton, pull a Rick Spielman and trade down.
I agree. I want the 2 through 4 range. Like that's
load up on those second and thirds if you can. Oh my, the girth.
That's where the girth is, I guess. So I'm with you. I'm with you on that because I don't think our secondary is that bad. But adding one of those top pieces, it just makes me almost drool at what
the secondary now is fit to help one of these young guys fit and transition smoothly into the NFL.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. That's Vikings talk. That's NFL draft talk. And my prediction, Vikings are going to trade up to number 10 for Derek Stingley Jr.
Okay. I'm gonna say they're going to move up to 8. I want to see something more aggressive.
Okay.
Just
for Stingley?
For Stingley, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. There you go. Official predictions. Both of us say trading up for Stingley. I say to 10. Joe says to 8. And and then I think the Wolves are going to win the series. There you go. Thanks for this Minnesota week of talk. Again, you guys liked it having just the 1 or 2 topics last week. We're going to try to stick with that for a little while. And you all look great today.
Yeah, I love you.
I love you all. GG.